Welcome to this Forever Living Products special training entitled Nutrition from the Hive. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Bill Lewis and I'll be your host. With me is Holly Stout. Holly is our Director of Product Development. She's been a part of the beauty and fashion industry for a little over 25 years. 14 of those years has been in network marketing. She's developed skincare, hair care, cosmetics, and food supplements for global markets, and has traveled the world giving training seminars. She recently joined the Forever family to help drive our product development into the future. Those of you who attended our Forever Experience last month had the opportunity of learning from Holly and experienced the firsthand tremendous knowledge that she's got, the practical information that she's shared with us. If you have any questions, there's a field in your control panel where you can submit them. At the end of the presentation, we'll address as many as time permits. It's now my pleasure to turn the mic over to Holly Stout. Holly, are you there?
Hi, Bill. I am. Wonderful. Thank you so much for a great introduction. I am so excited to be able to do this presentation today. As some of you may have met me, I am quite passionate about our Forever products, and I'm learning every day. As Bill mentioned, I'm a new member to the Forever family, but not so new to this industry, and definitely not new to the world of health and wellness. Something I'm very passionate about, something I'd like to do to help inspire our FBOs and to help create more health for more people. We're going to go ahead and begin today, and we're going to learn about the bee products featured here at Forever Living. We're going to start with describing the colonies of the bees. Now, many of you have heard this before. This is not going to be new information for some of you who have been around for a long time, but that said, you are definitely going to hear some new things because science evolves and technology evolves, and we're learning constantly about this amazing thing called the beehive. You know, the beehive is really kind of one of nature's greatest and sweetest gifts because it's such a multitasking functional area that it's interesting to recognize that it's probably one of the most efficient and highly operative places in the world. You know, there's really no doubt that if a bee were to be studied, they would really show a high development for organizational behavior and teamwork. And although hives are really about only 4 feet tall, they generate some of nature's most nutritive and impressive offerings. The humble honeybee, and I say humble strategically because, let's face it, they're bees, but they are so miraculous. These bees live a very full life, and they do amazing things. And that leads us to exactly where I was going. We're going to talk about all our bee products, as I mentioned today. So we're going to talk about aloe propolis cream, the bee honey, our bee pollen, the Forever Royal Jelly, and Forever Bee Propolis. But in order to understand what makes these products so amazing and so great for the body is to really understand and back up a little bit about how they're made. So we're going to first talk about where all the magic happens and who is responsible in the hive. As I mentioned, a hive is usually only about 4 feet tall, but it is a completely self-contained environment, a self-contained city, if you will. And it's made up of many different bees that perform different roles within the hive. So we're going to talk about the queens, the drones, and the workers, which really do the majority of the work. So the queens, and this is in the average bee colony, there's one queen, and it's a fertile queen, and her main activity is egg laying. That is it. The drones are anywhere between 300 and 800 in their population. These are fertile males, and their sole role is just that, to fertilize the queen. Then we have the workers, and this is truly the people who make it, or the bees rather, that make it happen. The workers are anywhere in the number of 20 to 80,000, and these are sterile female worker bees, and they make up over 98% of the colony's population. In addition to this, to the queens, the drones, and the workers, there are also about between 5,000 eggs and 25 to 30,000 immature bees in various stages of their development, in upwards of which 10,000 have newly hatched. That's 10,000 life forms that need nurturing and constant supervision until they're ready to leave the hive. So you can imagine this is a massive colony where there's a lot of activities and a lot of responsibilities. So, as we've talked about the queens and the drones roles, the workers have a myriad of roles. So, in the very first 2 to 3 weeks of an adult life, this worker bee is considered to be a house bee. And she's responsible for cleaning the hive and the comb. She's responsible for feeding the brood. The brood is the newly hatched and also the eggs that exist in the hive. She's responsible for caring for the queen. She makes orientation flights, meaning she orients herself to the outdoor environment of the hive and how to source food. She builds the combs, she ventilates the hive, and she also assists in packing the pollen, the water, the nectar, and all the honey into the combs. So she's got a huge task load right up front as far as housekeeping goes. But then the bees begin to split off and they begin to vary the tasks, and you'll have bees that kind of take guard duty, if you will. The guard bee has the duty of inspecting all incoming collectors by smelling their odor. And we're going to talk about the hive and how amazingly sustained it is. But the guard duties are fierce, and they do not let anything that smells suspicious pass the door of the hive. And we'll also note during mating season that really there are more than one guard bee that's guarding the hive, because of course the queen is fertile and we're actually creating a new queen in the hive, and so we want to make sure that nothing bad gets in. Scout duty is really performed by certain bees who are trained to go out and locate food sources, and then they pass on the information to other bees by a series of dance-like movements. I thought this was so cool. What the bee does is she circles around and around, and she stamps her legs and she wags her abdomen, and sometimes she stretches. And in studies, we have learned that this is possibly to show the type of food she has found, and even have observed workers watching her to determine what she's indicating, and then they act accordingly. So we believe through science that different dances can show varying types of information to be passed on. So the scouts go, they find the food source, they come back, they do their dance, the worker bees observe, and then they get the message, and then they go out and act accordingly. I thought that was really neat. Collecting is a real specific task where once the food source is scouted, a bee in his full or in her full form, in her full high energy, then leaves and is actually out collecting. And they collect all of the pollen, the propolis, the nectar. They go out into the areas that the scouts have sourced, and they collect everything. And this collection starts as early as 5:15 a.m., and usually by 6:30 p.m., almost all of the bees have returned to the hive. So they work beyond an average workday of 8 to 5, but they absolutely perform some miraculous things when they're out and about. And you can imagine hundreds of thousands of bees out doing this exact thing and taking it back to the hive the way they instinctively know how to do. And then one of the most important functions of a worker bee is the nurse. And this is where all the larvae are fed during their first 3 days of life, and they're fed with either royal jelly, which we'll talk about in a little bit, or they're fed honey and pollen. Next, we're going to talk about our bee pollen, and this is one that I'm particularly passionate about simply because we're in the season where bee pollen can be of so much benefit. I've read a lot of news studies talking about allergies all across the United States and how this season particularly has been one high for seasonal allergies. When we hear the term busy as a bee, that's specifically talking about this product. So we're going to talk about what bee pollen is, how it's gathered, and what good it can do in the body. So pollen's been called a miracle food, and it's been called that for good reason because it's one of the most nutrient-dense materials in the world. As the field bees, or the worker bees, gather nectar from within the flowers, it also gathers pollen, or the male seed of the flower. And each bee pollen pellet contains over 2 million flower pollen grains, and 1 teaspoon can contain up to 2.5 billion grains of flower pollen. That's a lot of pollen. That's a lot of collecting in a day's work. So the bees combine the pollen with their own saliva and their nectar, and then they create small granules that we call bee pollen. Bee pollen is rich in protein and it's loaded with amino acids, vitamins, minerals, enzymes, and coenzymes. And due to the high level of nutrition in bee pollen, world-class athletes have actually been known to use pollen to support their high-intensity training and performance. So with these 96 components of nutrients, it really becomes a nutritive powerhouse. You know, bees work all day at an amazing pace, and it also requires the nutritional support of pollen. So not only do they bring it back to the hive, but they use it to benefit in doing their own activities. So they use it to sustain the energy needed to perform their duties. And humans have also used pollen to provide natural energy stamina. In fact, it's such a great source of energy that, again, athletes will rely on this as part of their training. Weight management is another benefit that we can see with bee pollen, as well as stamina, which resorts to that energy. The bees use it to really sustain themselves throughout the day. And then for me, allergies. Huge issue for me. I've never had seasonal allergies until I moved to Arizona, and now I have them and my family has them, and we've been taking the Forever Bee pollen and we've experienced some great results. Allergies were studied at the University School of Medicine in Tokyo, and it was proven that that bee pollen can help support allergies through allergy season. We've also known through myriad of studies that bee pollen can actually help support healthy testosterone levels in men and also estrogen levels in postmenopausal women. So you can see this rich bee pollen from millions and millions of flowers and stems all over the world that they bring that back to the hive, and now we have bottled it and you get to benefit as a forever living person who enjoys our products. Taking a little while to advance. There we go. As I mentioned with allergies and the University School of Medicine in Tokyo, this is really one of the true known benefits and the most scientifically studied for bee pollen. With its rich scientific documentation and the benefits it can lend to helping support allergies, I have found that with my family, we all started with half a tablet a day, and we did that for about a week, and then I quickly jumped right into the full recommended dosage while I kept my children on that half a dose, and we began to notice improvement within about 7 days of taking the product. Now, I can't say we still don't have allergies, but the symptoms are greatly reduced, which is so helpful as we're going about our daily duties. In the healthy testosterone levels, it was known to equate to healthy prostate. And in weight control, we've had a myriad of studies that help to show that it can help reduce cravings for protein and also have an average daily consumption that is reduced by up to 15 to 20%. So these benefits come from the work of a bee. We've taken the work of the bee, bottled it, and with the high level of quality and concern here that we practice at Forever, we're now providing a very highly effective product to your family. Next, we're going to transition to talk about the Forever Bee Propolis and what bee propolis is. It's typically known as the Great Defender, and the name actually comes and dates back to pre-times with Aristotle, where the word pro means before and polis means the city, and so therefore it means before the city, and that directly relates to the hive. So bee propolis is known as a sealant, a sterilizer, and an entrance mat because the bees use it to line the inside of their hives, repair their combs, seal the cracks and corners, and they do this all with propolis to protect the colony against harmful bacteria. So they actually line the doormat of their hive with propolis, which each bee must step on prior to entering the hive. Scientists and beekeepers believe that propolis is created from polyphenol-rich resins from tree plants, and these resins are known for their high ability to fend off damaging pollutants that could actually enter the hive and disrupt this. Now you got to remember that the hive is a dark, moist, damp place, and that is a breeding ground for typical bacteria that would grow in a living entity. But the hive is so self-sufficient and it is so self-contained that you have a thriving colony that not only lives there, but thrives there, that grows, that breeds, and that duplicates and replicates, and not only does that, but creates amazing nutrients for our benefit. The Forever Bee Propolis, as I mentioned, is a fantastic product that comes from this technology of the bee propolis. And as I mentioned, we believe that the resins collected from trees and plants are used to protect the plant and heal the damage to the plant or tree. Now, like pollen and honey, the bees extract the resins, but then they add their own enzymes and they together create propolis. So what you see in the bee propolis is not necessarily a full direct tree resin, but it's actually been broken down over and over and over with the enzymes to create propolis. There was a newly initiated large-scale field study by researcher Michael Simone Finstrom at North Carolina State University, and he worked in the Department of Biology at the University of Pennsylvania, and they found convincing evidence that propolis in the nest can influence a honeybee immunity. So not only is this propolis helping to guard and keep the hive safe from all those environmental assaults, but it's actually influenced the honeybee itself to bolster its immune support. The research has also noted that it appeared that honeybees co-opted the defenses produced by plants as a type of social immunity, or the colony-level defense against bacteria. So not only did they use it to sustain their hives, they use it to sustain one another so that no germs, no bacteria are communicated from one to the other. So like the bees, man uses propolis for immune support and protection from these environmental assaults. So it can help rid the bacteria from the hive. It also works as a natural preservative. Again, you've got to remember that these bees are creating all of these luscious things like pollen and propolis and honey. But all of those wonderful nutrients are in a very dark, wet, damp area where Mother Nature would like to grow yeast and mold and bacteria and fungus. But the bee will not let her because of the things that it naturally sustains within its body. So this propolis will actually act like a natural preservative. I love this product simply because of what it does in the hive and what we know therefore can translate to what it will do when we take this supplement on a daily basis. It's a wonderful addition to your daily regimen, your Vital 5 system. Add your bee propolis for sustained immune support. This is a product, again, that I take every single day. And ever since taking the Forever products, I've experienced an increased vitality that I can't even describe. It's truly amazing. Finally, in the supplements, we're going to talk about Forever Royal Jelly. Now, this is a really special product because, you know, they call it food fit for a queen. This is the substance that the queen only eats her entire life. This is what the queen is given her entire life. Other bees actually are fed with bee pollen and honey, but the queen is fed this royal jelly for her entire life. Royal jelly is also fed to select bee larvae from birth to promote their growth into queen bees. So what determines the queen is simply what they're fed. If they're fed royal jelly, they grow larger and faster and they can turn into a queen bee. Or they're fed honey and pollen, and that honey and pollen is what turns them into a worker bee. So this is really that transformative substance that really helps to help that bee grow and turn into a queen that will ultimately rule the hive and populate the hive. So the royal jelly obviously is power-packed. It could be considered it's a milk-like substance, a mother's milk-like substance, and the nurse bees actually secrete it from the gland in their head. So it really is that rich milk nutritive supplement that these nurse bees feed the larvae in order to promote healthy growth. So royal jelly is packed with antioxidants and amino acids and other unique nutrients like lecithin and collagen. It's got EFAs, it's got gamma globulin. This is a power-packed house of nutritive sustenance that is really taken into the hive, developed in the hive, and remains in the hive. So it's protected by that bee propolis all around it, the scout bees and the guard bees that stand at the door and don't let anybody in. And inside is contained this royal jelly, this rich nutritive sustenance that helps to feed these larvae as they're growing. So it helps to provide the queen with the nutrients needed to mature quickly. She grows larger than the normal bees, and then she will populate the hive with over 3 million eggs in her lifetime. So each one of them, that's a pretty tall task for her, but each one of the 98% worker bees are also doing such a great job to sustain the hive, but not just sustain it, but help it thrive and grow without contamination, maintaining the purest, richest form of nutrients contained within. Royal jelly is a special natural ingredient that many believe may help to support healthy hair, skin, nails, and reproductive health, vitality, and cellular health. So you can see this wonderful pure substance fed only to the small larvae within the hive is a power-packed house for you and your body as you add it to your daily supplementation regimen. We can't talk about bee products without talking about the Forever Bee honey, because after all, honey collection is one of the oldest crafts known to man. So what happens are bees consume nectar, and then the nectar is regurgitated by a bee and passed to the next bee. Now that sounds a little gross, right? But remember, bees are so self-contained, and they've lived in this hive, and they've been fed in this hive, nurtured in the hive, and then they're directed by the scout to only go to the areas that will help the beehive grow and thrive. So they go directly to those areas, they collect their pollen, they collect the tree sap, the resin tree sap, and then they regurgitate it, they come back to the hive, and it's passed, regurgitated by a bee and passed to the next bee. So taking honey from the hive is one of the oldest crafts known to man, and you're actually taking that rich nutrition that the bees have collected and passed along, broken it down into the enzymes and passed. And it's actually passed possibly over 100 times from bee to bee to bee to bee. And you can imagine that each bee has visited a different flower, a different area, a different pollen source. So you can imagine the process of passing this from one bee to the next. You can imagine, I kind of picture it like a snowball rolling down the hill. You start little with one bee, and then it's passed to the next, and it keeps rolling and rolling. And by the time it's at the bottom, you have this massive ball of wonderful nutrition. So it's obviously natural, and it's a highly nutritious sweetener. The creation of honey starts with the field bees procuring it from the nectar, and then it's brought back to the hive and then consumed, regurgitated, and then we actually can just help to take the honey and store it in the cells of the honeycomb. That's what we pull it from. So we pull it from the honeycomb. And the great thing about the honeycomb is it's not necessarily, it can be dripping with honey, but you'll notice that the honey is a little bit more sticky on the honeycomb. That is because the bees actually help to remove the moisture from the honey by fanning their wings. So they have a task. They bring the honey back in, they deposit it into the honeycombs, they pack it in, so little by little those honeycombs grow, and then the nectar starts to ooze out. But you'll notice that it's not like the honey that we would think it is. When they pull the honeycombs, it's not necessarily dripping, but all of the moisture has been taken out, so all of the rich nutrition that has been deposited into that honeycomb is reserved. And I love that the bees actually do that by fanning it with their wings. So you can imagine that task with all of the worker honeybees. So over the ages, it's been a delicious substance. It's been used in myriad of food preparation. It's natural, nutritionally rich. And I can't drink our tea without the Forever Bee honey. I always do a little squirt of this just for a little extra sweetness in our aloe blossom tea. I love that. It's a great little treat for me every afternoon. And finally, we're going to end here with our aloe propolis cream, because let's face it, we can't talk about our bee products without transitioning into our skincare and how we've extracted this propolis and applied it to a topical effect. So you can imagine the benefits that you will get when combining the propolis, the bee propolis supplement with the aloe propolis cream. This is really, and I put there at the bullet, the aloe superstar. I have to tell you, I've been in the industry for a very long time, and I can tell you that this company uses the highest amount of aloe in their products that I have ever seen. I've seen a lot of master formulas, and I was absolutely giddy when I got here and saw the formulas and saw the high concentration of aloe. So aloe really is a superstar in this. The one thing I love about this is that it's unique because there's no added water to the formula, which means the richness of each ingredient is supercharged. So you have aloe at the very top of the list in its high concentration. You have ethyl hexyl palmitate, which is an emollient. This helps the creamy moisture. This is derived from palms, so it's a naturally derived source of emollient. Then you have beta-carotene, which are full of carotenoids, which are known for their antioxidant properties and are critically responsible for communicating healthy responses to the skin. We also have vitamin E, which we all know is great to help the skin when it responds when it's stressed. And it has chamomile flower for a very soothing effect. This rich cream, as you apply it, you can just fill your skin, drink it in, and all of those rich benefits supporting the skin from the outside in. And when you take your bee propolis cream, you support the skin from the inside out. So that concludes our presentation today. I hope you learned just a little something about the amazing effects of bees and the wonderful thing that they have given us, and that we can experience more health for more people by taking these forever bee products, enjoying them, but mostly sharing them with those we love and those we don't know as well, so that they can also experience more health for more people. Thank you so much and have a beautiful day.
Well, thank you, Holly. That was fantastic. We appreciate your helping us understand and appreciate the tremendous potential of our wonderful bee products. You know, we're the world's largest producer and distributor of high-quality bee products, and it's no wonder. And today, Holly, you've helped us to understand exactly why. Well, we're just about at our time. Let me see real quickly if we have any questions that have come in. And it doesn't appear that we have any questions. Holly, hold on. One just came in. Let me get up here. Okay. Holly, they're asking if the bee propolis tablets are recommended to be chewed. Would that still be okay if swallowed or maybe blended with a smoothie so the kids will drink it?
I would say most definitely. Obviously, the most important thing is to get it into the kid's body, right? So however you can deliver it would be ideal. That said, it is recommended to be chewed. If you can get them to chew it, mask it in a little gummy or in a piece of fruit or something. I know that their kids are smart and they're going to get it, but yes, any way to get it in is ideal, but it is recommended that we chew it.
Okay, next question that I might be able to answer here is what kind of flowers are the bees feeding from? Is it only aloe vera flowers? No, it is not only aloe vera flowers. In fact, aloe is only one of literally hundreds or thousands of different flowers that the bees may be collecting this pollen from. So it's from a great variety of plants, and all of them are unique in their qualities, and so it's great to have this all together in one tablet. Okay, let's see if there's any more. Come down here. The question is, will this be recorded? And yes, of course, all of these are recorded. These webinars are recorded, and they will be available probably on Monday. You'll receive an email confirmation, an email link, I should say, that will allow you direct access to that the presentation. You can then feel free to share that link with anyone who might be interested in seeing this presentation, and it will be located, it will be posted for many, many months. Okay, that seems to be it. It's time for us to close today. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you, Holly, for all that you've done. And Don't miss our next webinar in 2 weeks. It'll be entitled Building an Eagle Business. So keep your eyes open in Facebook and Twitter so you can see the links to register for that presentation, and we will look forward to being with all of you in 2 weeks. Thank you so much, and bye for now.